Spiritual abuse. What's spiritual abuse? Well, it's when somebody sets himself up as a spiritual teacher and a bunch of people get hanging around that teacher and they think, he's real great and he says wise things which are, genuinely helpful, as they often are. And they start giving, their money, their devotion. And they think this person is someone very special, and this person makes out that they're very, very special. And all the people trust. And they have a lot of trust in this person, They give them their devotion. So spiritual abuse is when that person then begins to emotionally, physically, and sexually abuse the people for whom they're supposed to be embodying the teachings that they give. Now, I doubt very much that there's people who actively teach that, beating people is a really good idea. That'd be a bit sort of obvious for people. People might actually go, how is that spiritual? No, it's much, much more subtle than that, which is why people don't realize they're being spiritually abused. The kind of things that would be said to make this seem okay are things like, the teacher is beyond, they're enlightened, so, they can do whatever they want. It's like, how did I ever subscribe to a view like that? Nobody can behave in a way that harms somebody else and not be responsible for that behavior. The law of cause and effect just states that shit's going to come back at them one day, and hit them in the face. When they've got a teacher who's definitely abusing people, then everybody in that sangha has been spiritually abused because the person has set themselves up to be something they're not. They're supposed to embody the fine teachings that they're giving, the teachings on love and compassion, on non-harming. Then you turn around and you find that in actual fact, not only they're harming people, but they're doing stuff that's a lot worse than a normal person. When you discover that, you discover that you have been spiritually abused. Anyone, any normal person, ordinary person in that sangha has been abused, spiritually abused. They may not have been hit. They may not have been stood up in front of hundreds of people and growled out until they were sobbing, a sobbing mess. That may not have happened to them. They might not have been punched themselves, no. But their trust that this person is genuinely aiming to benefit his students, they discover that's a lie. And every single person in that community has been lied to. But spiritual abuse. And how does it feel? Not good. It's shock at first when you discover it. Anger. There's a kind of trauma, really, that is experienced by everybody. And people deal with it in different ways. Some shut off, and it completely makes them more devoted to this person who's behaving in a really bad way. They just simply put blinkers on and do not see it as wrong, because if they see it as wrong, their whole belief system is threatened. And, people like that will do their utmost to, gather everybody else around and, give them a big hug and try and get them to see the same way. And that's how they deal with it, the pain of it. And they will, look at the people who are speaking out and say that there's something wrong with them. They will demean them, they will shun them, all those kind of things. And that's just their way of coping with the fact that they've been spiritually abused. Other people will simply leave. So even though their words that come out of their mouth might have been really helpful, even though they might have sat there and created this marvelous atmosphere of love and spaciousness and warmth and coziness, or whatever else you want to call it, a feel-good situation, even though he may have actually introduced you to the nature of your mind, there's still a lie there. There's still a deep, deep betrayal, because he's not who you thought he was, and he's not who he claims to be. Now, some people still think that he is who he claims to be, that some people will still think that their teacher is enlightened, despite All behaviour that indicates that's not true, that's fine. People have beliefs and you can't change people's beliefs. And when there's a large number of people, expressing, and I'm not just talking about 8 people who wrote a letter. I'm talking about all the people that have left over the years, all the people that have seen stuff. When, they all leave enormously disenchanted, to such an extent that some of them feel they can't go near any religion ever again in their life. And maybe that's maybe that's great. Maybe that's a really good learning for them. That's spiritual abuse. We all deal with it in our own way. But every single person has been spiritually abused. They have been lied to because the person is behaving worse than they are. This is what spiritual abuse feels like. And there's a certain amount of shame in admitting that you were part of it on any level. And so I can see why it's really hard to admit that, to actually say, shit, man, I was conned. And that's not to deny the good, not at all. And that's what makes it so hard, because you want to hold on to the good, and you think that you can't hold on to the good, and at the same time recognize that you've kind of been had, to a certain degree. For me, I trusted that this teacher would not harm anyone. And when I discovered how badly he had harmed people, I felt betrayed and definitely spiritually abused. So there you go. That's it for now. I hope this helps you to recognize what's happened to you. Sometimes labeling it is good. You can say, well, yeah, I feel, spiritually abused here because my trust in my teacher was blown by his behavior, which I saw as being not in alignment with what he taught. So yeah, I hope that helps. And thanks again to my sponsors, because without you I wouldn't put myself out here quite so much and actually share these things. But I know I'm talking not just for myself, so I hope that if you're one of those people that you find some clarity through me sharing my process with you. Thanks for listening. Bye.